Nandana Prajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So good morning. We are reading from Canto 10, chapter 65. And there are two texts today, text 17 and text 18. So we'll chant text 17 together. Tvamaso tatra chavatsin madhu madhavam evacha rajan shapasu bhagavan gopinam ratim avahan tvamaso tatra chavatsin madhu madhavam evacha Raja Shapasu Bhagavan Gopinam Ratim Avahan Dvalmasao Tatre Chavatsin Madhum Madhavam Evacha Raja Shapasu Bhagavan Gopinam Ratim Avahan. Please chant. Dvalmasao Tatra Chavatsin Madhun Madhavam Evacha Raja Shapasu Bhagavan Gopinam Ratim Avahan. The word for word, Dval, two, Masao, months, Tatra, there in Gokula, Cha, and Avas, sorry, computer took it out, resided, Madhum, Madhu, the first month of the Vedic calendar at the time of the spring equinox. Madhavam, Madhava, the second month. Eva, indeed. Cha, also. Ramaha, Balaram. Shapasu, during the nights. Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord. Gopinam, to the gopis. Ratim, conjugal pleasure. Avaham, bringing. And the translation for text 17 is as follows by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Lord Balaram, the personality of Godhead, resided there for 2 months of Madhu and Madhava, and during the nights he gave his cowherd girlfriends conjugal pleasure. And the purport, which is by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and this commentary is drawn completely from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Srila Sridhar Swami states that the gopis who enjoyed conjugal affairs with Sri Balaram during his visit to Gokula had not taken part in Sri Krishna's rasa dance, being too young at the time. Srila Jiva Goswami confirms this statement by quoting a phrase from the Bhagavatam 10:15-8. Gopya Nitarena Pujaya, which indicates that there are particular gopis who act as Lord Balaram's girlfriends. Furthermore, Jiva Goswami states that during the holy festivities celebrated when Krishna killed Shankachuda, the gopis Lord Balaram enjoyed with were different from the ones Lord Krishna enjoyed with. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti agrees with this explanation. And then text 18. Purna Chandra Kala Miriste Kaumudi Gandha Vayuna Yamuno Pavane Reme Sevitesh Triganair Vimtaha. And the translation for text 18. In the company of numerous women, Lord Balaram enjoyed in a garden by the Yamuna River. This garden was bathed in the rays of the full moon and caressed by breezes bearing the fragrance of night-blooming lotuses. It's a very short purport. Again, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that Lord Balaram's conjugal pastimes took place in a small forest alongside the Yamuna, a place known as Sri Ramagat, which is far from the site of Sri Krishna's rasa dance. Om Gyana Timarandasya Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragutam Vitam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapsa Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchakalpats Rubyas Cha Kripa Sindhuve Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Roma Padaswami Iti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The 2 months in which Lord Balaram resided in Gokula, because he had come there to try to ameliorate the suffering of the gopis and the residents of Gokula. So the 2 months he resided in Gokula were the months Madhu, and there's a different name for it, Chaitra, which is March through April, and the month of Madhava, which is also called Vaishakha, which is April through May. So these are the first 2 months of spring, and that's what we read in this commentary. It's that's given by Srila Sridhar Swami, and it's also noted by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur commenting on this verse. So the reason that Lord Balaram stayed there continuously for 2 months is, and this is Srila Prabhupada writing in Krishna book, his words, to keep the gopis in Vrindavan satisfied. So that's his reason for spending those 2 months there continuously. So the description given is the following. So this is Srila Prabhupada's writing in Krishna book. Lord Balaram, of course, could understand the ecstatic feelings of the gopis, and therefore he wanted to pacify them. He was expert in presenting an appeal, and thus, treating the gopis very respectfully, he began to narrate the stories of Krishna so tactfully that the gopis became satisfied. So that's Srila Prabhupada explaining how Balaram went about trying to pacify the gopis, and pacify because they were experiencing a great sorrow actually at the separation, the physical separation from Krishna, because Krishna had gone to Mathura. So particularly there's this mention by Srila Prabhupada that Lord Balaram treated the gopis very respectfully, and he actually knew how to, I guess, take into account their ecstatic emotions, and those ecstatic emotions being something that included this kind of sorrow at the separation from Krishna, but he was able to actually negotiate that space and narrate stories of Krishna. So there's a very delicate perception of knowing the right thing to say. And this is what Lord Balaram was able to do without offending the gopis. And this is very important because Lord Balaram, in encountering the gopis, he had just witnessed the gopis talking, such that their feelings for Krishna became more and more intense. And they were actually experiencing Krishna smiling. So they separated and they start talking and they start experiencing Krishna smiling, Krishna's words of love, Krishna's attractive features, Krishna's characteristics, and Krishna's embraces. So this Lord Balaram is fully aware of what it is that the gopis are factually experiencing, and by the force of their ecstatic feelings, it appeared to them that Krishna was personally present and dancing with them. So because of their sweet remembrances of Krishna, they could not check their tears, and thus they cried without consideration. So this is just what preceded and the emotional state of the gopis before Lord Balaram has to tactfully find some way to actually pacify them, soothe them. So this is given by Srila Prabhupada in Krishna book. So some things which give impetus to the stimulation of ecstatic love of Krishna are his transcendental qualities, his uncommon activity. So this whole listing comes in Nectar of Devotion, what it is that stimulates these ecstatic feelings. So it's Krishna's transcendental qualities, his uncommon activities, his smiling features, his apparel and garlands, his flute, his buffalo horn, his leg bells, his conch shell, his footprints, his place of pastimes, such as Vrindavan, his favorite plant, Tulsi, his devotee, and the periodical occasions for remembering him. So all of these particular features of Lord Krishna, even his devotee, stimulates this ecstatic love. So one could infer to some extent that even the gopis' remembrances of Lord Krishna were stimulated by the presence of Lord Balaram. So, in terms of the transcendental qualities of Krishna, this is again given in Nectar of Devotion, these can be divided into three groups. So there's the qualities that pertain to his transcendental body, qualities that pertain to his transcendental speech, and qualities that pertain to his transcendental mind. So we'll just look at one aspect of those transcendental qualities. So the qualities that pertain to his body, because that was the first category, that's made up of his age, his transcendental bodily features, his beauty, and his mildness. So Krishna is very mild. So Srila Prabhupada notes in Nectar of Devotion that to be attracted to Krishna's qualities means to be attracted to Krishna himself. So this may sound obvious, but the point is that there's no real distinction between Krishna and his qualities. It's one and the same. So in terms of Krishna's age, because that was part of the first category, the transcendental bodily features, age was one of them. In terms of Krishna's age, this can be considered in three periods. So from his appearance to the 5th year, it's called the Kumara age. From the beginning of the 6th year to the 10th is the Poganda age, and from the 11th to the end of the 15th year is the Kaishore age. So his friendship with the gopis is exhibited during the age of Kaishore, so between the age of 10 and 15. 11th and 15. So Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan are finished by the end of the 15th year. And that's when he's transferred to Mathura and Dwarka, where all the other pastimes are performed. So the experience of Krishna's attractive feature is described in the beginning of the Kaishore age, the beginning of his 11th year. So this is something of a change that takes place in Krishna's transcendental body. So this is the beginning of the 11th year, so the beginning of the Kaishore age and the change. So generally when a regular human body enters teenage years, there's some changes that start taking place. So usually with men, one might notice that the voice starts breaking, and there's signs of manhood appearing. So these are what the changes that happened with Krishna's transcendental body. The luster of his body became so bright that it became an impetus for ecstatic love. Similarly, reddish borders around his eyes and a growth of soft hairs on his body. So those were the visible changes in the 11th year on Krishna's body. So these words are quoted by one of the residents of Vrindavan in Nectar of Devotion, that this lady notices these changes in this 11th year, this Kaishore, beginning of Kaishore age of Krishna. And this is what she says. Her name is Kundalata. And she's talking to a friend. My dear friend, I have just seen an extraordinary beauty appearing in the person of Krishna. His blackish bodily hue appears just like the Indramila jewel. There are reddish signs on his eyes, and small soft hairs are coming out on his body. The appearance of these symptoms has made him extraordinarily beautiful. So that's one of the residents of Vrindavan noticing these little changes in Krishna's transcendental body. So Srila Vishwanath continues that the gopis who enjoyed conjugal affairs with Balaram during his visit to Gokula had not taken part in Krishna's rasa dance, being too young at the time. So that's a statement that was made, and we read it in the purport. Srila Prabhupada writes, and this is again drawing from Krishna book, for those 2 months he kept himself among the gopis, and he passed every night with them in the forest of Vrindavan to satisfy their desire for conjugal love. Thus Balaram also enjoyed the rasa dance with the gopis during these 2 months. So Srila Jiva Goswami confirms that these gopis had not taken part in Krishna's rasa dance by quoting Srimad Bhagavatam 10:15:8. So this is the statement in 10:15:8. And this is Krishna talking to Balaram, announcing something to Balaram. So Krishna says, Gopyo Natarena Bujayor api yat spriha shri. So that's the last line of 10:15:8. And that's particularly what Srila Jiva Goswami is drawing attention to. The full verse is as follows, and this is spoken by Krishna to the cowherd boys and Balaram. So this is Krishna talking. And this is the verse that Srila Jiva Goswami is looking to confirm that it's not the same gopis that were participating in the rasa dance of Balaram as were those that were participating in Krishna's rasa dance. So this is the full verse. This earth has now become most fortunate because you have touched her grass and bushes with your feet and her trees and creepers with your fingernails, and because you have graced her rivers, mountains, birds, and animals with your merciful glances. But above all, this is the line of relevance, you have embraced the young cowherd woman between your 2 arms, a favor hankered after by the goddess of fortune herself. And Krishna is saying this to Balaram. So, this statement, as per Srila Jiva Goswami, indicates that there are particular gopis who act as Lord Balaram's girlfriends. And this statement that I've just read, the translation of, is made by Lord Krishna addressing Lord Balaram, indicating the blessing received by the gopis of being embraced directly between the Lord's arms. So, of course, one can note in the BBT commentary on this verse, the one we read, is Lord Krishna's statement that the earth has become most fortunate, which indicates that nothing can equal the blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his personal form as Krishna, appearing simultaneously with his plenary expansion Balaram. So that's the significance of that Srila Jiva Goswami is drawing attention to. Krishna actually addresses Balaram and states to him that that the gopis were so blessed because they got embraced within the 2 arms of Lord Balaram. So Srila Jiva Goswami is using this as evidence that the gopis that Lord Balaram had his rasa dance with were different from the gopis that Lord Krishna had his rasa dance with. So in addition, Srila Jiva Goswami states that during the holy festivities, which are celebrated when Krishna kills Shankachuda, the gopis that Lord Balaram enjoyed with were different from the ones Krishna enjoyed with. So this is second evidence that there's a different set of gopis for Lord Balaram versus Lord Krishna. And that particular occasion, I'm going to go into it a little bit to set the context for how it is that Srila Jiva Goswami reaches this conclusion. So that particular occasion had been after the cowherd men had executed the ritualistic function of worshipping Lord Shiva and Ambika. So the cowherd men had spent the night on the bank of the Saraswati. They fasted all day and drank a little water at night. But while they were taking rest, a great serpent from the nearby forest appeared before them and hungrily began to swallow up Nanda Maharaj. So Nanda cried out helplessly, "My dear son Krishna, please come and save me from this danger." The serpent is swallowing me. So when Nanda Maharaj cried out for help, the cowherd men, they got up, they saw what was happening, and they immediately took up burning logs and began to beat the snake to kill it. But in spite of being beaten with burning logs, the serpent was not about to give up swallowing Nanda Maharaj. It was naturally a very hungry serpent. It actually ingests a huge body, and it takes a long time for that to digest. So um, it's sustenance for a long period of time. So it was very important, the meal to the serpent. Anyway, Krishna appeared on the scene and he touched the serpent with his lotus feet. And immediately upon being touched by his lotus feet of Krishna, or the lotus feet of Krishna, the serpent shed its reptilian body and appeared as a very beautiful demigod named Vidyahara. So it was an instant physical transformation. So the danger is gone. So it was after this incident, because that's what Srila Jiva Goswami is drawing attention to. It was after this incident that Krishna and his brother, who are inconceivably powerful, went into the forest of Vrindavan. So this is the part where the statement of Srila Jiva Goswami is applicable. So I'm going to read from Krishna book. They were accompanied by the damsels of Brajabhumi, and they began to enjoy their company. The young damsels were very nicely dressed and anointed with pulp of sandalwood and decorated with flowers. The moon was shining in the sky, surrounded by glittering stars. The breeze was blowing, bearing the aroma of malika flowers, and the bumblebees were mad after the aroma. Taking advantage of the pleasing atmosphere, Krishna and Balaram began to sing melodiously. So the damsels became so absorbed in the rhythmical song, they almost forgot themselves. So their hair loosened, their clothes slackened, and their garlands began to fall to the ground. So it implies one has to be conscious to keep one's hairstyle intact and one's sari intact. So, uh, anyway, that was Srila Prabhupada writing in Krishna book to describe that particular moment in time. And it was at that time, while Krishna and Balaram and the damsels were so much absorbed, almost in madness, with this melodious rhythmical singing, that a demoniac associate of Kuvera, the treasurer of the demigods, he appeared on the scene. So, pausing for a moment, one can note, because one hears that there was such absorption in this rhythmical singing of Krishna and Balaram. So in Nectar of Devotion, there's a listing of the expressions of conjugal love. So it's not necessarily that one of these applies specifically in this situation, but this is the listing of the expressions of conjugal love. There's laughter, there's astonishment, there's chivalry, there's lamentation, there's anger, and dread. Very interesting. So expressions which are considered to be great reservoirs of pleasure. So all these emotions that come to be expressions of ecstatic conjugal love, they're actually sources of pleasure. So even dread brings pleasure. Even anger, transcendental anger, brings pleasure. So this is a listing of the 7 kinds of loving exchanges that happen in ecstatic love. So I'm just making a note of that as an aside. And Srila Prabhupada writes, although such conjugal feelings are not at all material, there is some similarity between this spiritual love and material activities. Therefore, persons who are only interested in material activities are unable to understand the spiritual conjugal love. And these devotional reciprocations appear very mysterious to them. And one can understand it's a very extraordinary subject matter. So continuing with the narration, because we're still looking at how Srila Jiva Goswami reaches his conclusion of the different sets of gopis for Krishna and Balaram. So this is Srila Prabhupada narrating in Krishna book. So this demoniac entity that appeared at this particular moment with these loving exchanges in conjugal love between Krishna and Balaram and the gopis, he thought that Krishna and Balaram were two ordinary cowherd boys enjoying the company of many beautiful girls. And his name was Shankachuda, this demoniac entity. He thought that since he belonged to the rich community of Kuvera, he, not Krishna and Balaram, should enjoy the company of so many beautiful girls. So he appeared before Krishna and Balaram and began to lead the girls away to the north. Imagine the impropriety of this particular demoniac entity. He commanded them as if he were their proprietor and husband, despite the presence of Lord Krishna and Balaram. And can you imagine such complete impropriety on the part of this creature? So being forcibly taken away by Sankachuda, the damsels of Raja called out the names of Krishna and Balaram for protection. The two brothers immediately began to follow them, taking up big logs of sala wood and in their hands. "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid," they called to the gopis. "We're coming at once to chastise this demon." I always appreciate when one hears the particular statements made either by the gopis or the Krishna. It's so much in the mode of goodness. There's no panic or anything. It's all very precise and exact and very controlled. So Krishna and Balaram, "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. We're coming at once to chastise this demon." It's very ordered. So very quickly, they reached Shankachuda. So thinking the brothers too powerful, Shankachuda left the company of the gopis and fled for his life. So some intelligence came to him. But Krishna would not let him go. Krishna entrusted the gopis to the care of Balaram and followed Shankachuda wherever he fled. Krishna wanted to take the valuable jewel resembling a conch shell from the head of the demon. And after following him a short distance, Krishna caught him, struck his head with his fist, and killed him. So the significant moment of the demolition of Shankachuda, and there's a nice bang on the wooden bench. Thank you, Jitendra. So, as Srila Prabhupada writes, the Rasa Leela was performed during the autumn. And after that, the next big ceremony is Holi, the Dolya Yatra ceremony. So that's the sequence. So the above incident, the one I've just described, paints the picture that preceded the Holi festival. So this leads to the next text, text 18. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that Lord Balaram's conjugal pastimes took place in a small forest alongside the Yamuna, a place known as Sri Ramghat, which is far from the site of Krishna's Rasa dance. So Srila Vishwanath gives a description. So this is the commentary by Srila Vishwanath of the particular scenario of Lord Balaram's Rasa dance. He enjoyed in a garden on the Yamuna, which was bright with the rays of the full moon, in the form of blooming lotuses, served by breeze fragrant with lotus, made to bloom by the moon, the place known as Ramaghat, far from the place where Krishna performed his Rasa dance. So that is as much as I was able to extract from these two verses, since they're very much narrational and very specific. If there's any thought on this subject matter.
There is It's very significant and sort of important to see, because it can be sort of confusing as the narration goes. Is we're lucky that our Vaishnava acharyas clarify the things, because Lord Balaram is speaking to the gopis and then pacify them, and then next is, is he's performing Rasa Lila. So that becomes a little confusing. So they get pacified about their separation from Krishna, and they start to perform Rasa Lila with Lord Balaram, but that's not the case. And our Vaishnava acharyas um, make sure that this is clarified and confirmed, that it's not the gopis that Lord Balaram was pacifying, but it's a group of gopis that were too young when the gopis that were connected with Krishna in conjugal love were performing these pastimes. So this set of gopis were the one who who's who were connected to Lord Balaram. And on the other side, there's another group of gopis during that time that are also part of Balaram's groups of gopis. So it's an important distinction. So I wanted to highlight that. And then one more thing, um, Krishna's, just a small little correction. Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan finished right before his 12 years. So it's 11 and a half, 11 and something that he stayed in Vrindavan, and then he went to Mathura.
Yes, that particular statement that I read is coming from Nectar of Devotion, but indeed I'm also remembering something like 11 years, 9 months was when he left for Mathura. But this was the particular statement in Nectar of Devotion.
The Kishore Lila, while he is 11, is part, that Lila happens in Vrindavan, but, but
The exit to Mathura.
yes.
Not the full length of the Kishore age was spent in Vrindavan. Yes, indeed, indeed. So, yes, it's also interesting in the description when Shankachuda is being killed, Krishna leaves the gopis in the care of Balaram. So it seems always and that was the evidence that Srila Jiva Goswami was using um, as to make that distinction that it's not the same gopis that Krishna had his rasa dance with, because it's immediately after the killing of Shankachuda that one hears of Lord Balaram being with those gopis in the forest by Sri Ramgat. So there's consistency, and it's true. It requires kind of fine intelligence to see the train of thought. So thank you that you specifically highlighting, because it could appear a different way if you're just reading the narration, that here he is, he's witnessing the distress of the gopis, and the gopis are expressing or showing all the ecstatic symptoms of, just by remembrance of Krishna, his actual presence, seeing his smiling, seeing his bodily characteristics, and then immediately thereafter hearing that he's having a rasa dance with a particular set of gopis. So just drawing attention to that significant moment, that you can't just jump into a conclusion that the one leads to the other. It's two different sets. So indeed, it's a very subtle point, and it seems it goes Sridhar Swami, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and Srila Jiva Goswami all being in agreement on this point and having discerned it from the sequence as it plays itself out. And it makes perfect sense that there is that uh, conjugal feeling, because conjugal implies seen as husband. So hence Lord Balaram is plenary expansion of Krishna. So actually to have conjugal ecstatic feelings for Lord Balaram is still a distinct entity, and Krishna is a distinct entity, even though Lord Balaram is a plenary expansion of Lord Krishna. But because conjugal feeling is devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Balaram is virtually none different, plenary expansion of Lord Krishna, but subtle distinction. So there's relationship with and seen as husband. So it would not be making sense that there's a swap. Yeah. So thank you very much for highlighting and processing. So thank you for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki